Hi, my name is Anita Misri. I work in learning and development, and I'm a graduate of the CACE program. I was introduced to the CACE program via a course called the Instructional Skills Workshop. I had literally signed up for the course, anticipating that it would help me understand the roles of facilitators a little bit better, because part of my role had to do with auditing folks who delivered training. When I took the course, I was incredibly inspired by the instructor of the course to revisit how I thought about learning and how I thought about adult learning very specifically. I hadn't anticipated taking the certificate program at all. I have a fair bit of education already and had never thought that I would be going back to school as an adult. I had 2 young children and a spouse who was also doing a master's in business administration program, so I really hadn't anticipated coming back into studies. But as I said, the instructor for the course was incredibly knowledgeable and really had me reflect on what I thought about learning. There is one story I can tell you about, one thing that happened to me while I was in the program, which I actually use quite a lot when I give examples of good training or bad training in my current role. I remember taking, I believe it was program planning in adult education. It had an instructor who's quite dynamic in it. And I had taken another course with her before, and I'm not sure quite what I had expected, but when I walked into the room, there were rows and rows of desks. And there were people sitting behind, it was very classroom style, sitting behind the desks. And she said, would you like to be taught or would you like to be facilitated? What would you like your learning to be? And before anybody could say anything else, she said, no, I think I'm going to go for coffee. We're going to facilitate this. And when I come back, I'd like to know what you'd like to know. I'd like to know what you'd like to learn. So you're going to write some learning objectives for this course for me and how you're going to learn it. And I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee and come back. And I remember thinking, okay, I can go with this because I'd had her in a course before. But for some of the learners in the class, it was just that shocking moment of, oh my goodness, what is the purpose of us being here? This person's an instructor and really should be telling us what we need to know. Whereas it was that transformational piece of learning around, no, this is about you. What is it that you want? What are you trying to get out of your own learning? Why are you here? Why are you invested in being here? For me, those were the moments that were just invaluable in the CACE program, were those moments for real reflection around what learning means and what very specifically adult learning means. For me, the program was terrific in that I already had a fair bit of experience in the field, and just having an opportunity to consider my area of expertise, if you will, and look at it from a distance, be reflective around what I was doing in my practice, having an opportunity to learn from folks who were also experts in the field and closer to the research that's out there at this time, to have them introduce me to different ideas and concepts that I wasn't necessarily actively thinking about was quite wonderful. And then having a chance to talk about it with other colleagues who also had considered some of these same ideas was amazing, because part of what's meaningful for me at this stage of my learning is how do I then take it back to my work environment and apply it? I think the biggest impact the CACE program had for me in terms of my current role is it did have me look at learning completely differently. I had thought about learning from a very almost academic model around you take a class, you learn what you need to learn, you write a test, and you produce. And really having to stop and think about how people could actually influence others by what they learned, how they could perform better in their roles by what they learned, was, as odd as that sounds, that's fairly dramatic, right? We often think about learning about going to a class, sitting there, finishing the class, and then you learned it, right? And the CACE program, the different courses in it, the different instructors, my classmates, all reinforce that idea of reflection and application in a very practical sort of way. and a very pragmatic way around not staying in the high level or in the theory, but really getting down to what does this mean? What does it actually mean when you're out there and working? Well, you own your own learning. That's what's exciting about it, is it's not something that someone at this stage of the game, it's not something that someone's forcing you to do. It is something that you need to take ownership of and define what it is you want to learn. And that is one thing that I do love about the program, is you really get to pay attention to what is it that you want to learn and ask your instructors to support you in achieving those goals.